Welcome to our webinar, Doing Business in Malta. Please put a plus in the chat if you can hear and see me well. 1 minute, we will wait from everyone. Great. Thank you all for joining us today. We are pleased to see you here. My name is Alina Childran, a counsel at Krom Mikhailenko, and I appreciate moderating today's session together with my colleague from Krom Mikhailenko, Petro Krichun, and our international partner. Today, companies are looking for jurisdictions that can provide access to international markets and offer efficient legal and tax frameworks. Malta has become one of the most attractive jurisdictions in Europe for these reasons. During this webinar, we will discuss company formation, private foundations, UBO privacy considerations, Malta IP Box Regime, and others tax issues, as well as how to combine Malta with Singapore to create a strong European and Asia business structure. We are grateful to have Mr. Jaroslavas Lukashevicius, co-founder of the First Step Solution Ltd with us today, who brings experience advising international businesses on Maltese corporate tax and investment structures. Before we begin, I would like to remind you that you can submit your questions through the chat during the session, and we will answer them. Thank you once again for joining us today. I hope you find this session practical and available for your business objectives. And now I'm pleased to pass it to Mr. Jaroslavas Lukashevicius. Jaroslavas, let's start.
Okay, hello to everybody. Before we begin, I just would like to say that my English not first language, therefore apologize if some information will be not very clear delivered to you, but I always will be happy to answer to additional questions if we cannot do that during this presentation. We have offices in Malta, Lithuania, and Estonia. Therefore, today my presentation will be related today with Maltese issues and the possibilities how we can use Maltese entities doing the business, international business. Why Malta? Malta is European Union jurisdiction with very attractive taxation mechanism. In Malta, there are three main taxes when you can choose. One possibility in Malta, every company can pay very high corporate tax that will be 35%. Therefore, you never can say that Malta is low tax jurisdiction. That is especially important to beneficial owners from high tax countries. But this 35% corporate tax mechanism also give possibilities use tax refund, and tax refund goes always to shareholders, to owners of the company. That is very important because the company pays just 35% and corporate tax never is returned back to the company. Tax refunds goes directly to the owner of the company. Therefore, effective corporate tax rate in case of active trading is just 5%. This tax refund usually goes after 4-5 months, and therefore not all owners from case to case maybe are satisfied with waiting this period because the money can be frozen. Tax refund, I mean. Therefore, there are possibilities to choose another way of taxation. That is fiscal unit. Fiscal unit, that is a group of the companies, that is should be minimum 2 legal entities. One legal entity should own not less than 95% of subsidiary in Malta, and then this group of the company can pay just 5% corporate tax. Then you don't need to pay 35% and wait for tax refund. But in this case, you can pay just 5% and that's it. What is important that owner of this Maltese company can be another Maltese entity or legal entity from other countries. For example, from Ukraine, from Germany, from Estonia. Therefore, but most popular decision, of course, from point of view of the clients is to use two legal entities from Malta, because then more simple is bank account opening and more simple is explain why you use two legal entities for doing business. Third way, that is quite new way that also the client can choose, that is to pay simple 15% corporate tax, and that's it. No tax refund, no fiscal unit, just 15% corporate tax possibility to pay. Of course, this possibility was implemented due to pillar rules. And of course, this possibility will be chosen by very big international group of the companies with very big revenue, but also that is not forbidden for simple business to do that.
Yaroslavs,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'd like to ask you if you are planning to share any slides or presentation. If so, there's Timothy, our IT assistant, and he could help you doing so.
Yes, would be good, but I cannot find there maybe this
Yeah,
presentation.
because I guess it would be easier to follow for those who are watching us. So,
Okay.
yeah, give me 1 second, please. I'm gonna call
Yes.
Timothy and he'll help you. Yep, perfect. From which slide should we start?
Yeah, let's start maybe from first slide.
From the first one.
Yes.
I guess this is it.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much, and sorry once again to interrupt you.
Can I move these slides myself?
No, unfortunately. Just tell Timothy and he'll do it. Should he move to next slide?
Yes. No. Sorry. You need to come back to first one, because this one was second one or third maybe. I just see from my phone. Yes. Yeah. Also, I will continue about taxation in Malta. Also, very attractive is dividends taxation in Malta, because still in Malta there are no restrictions for paying dividends outside Malta, but it's also very important. And today, absolutely no restrictions to pay dividends, for example, to offshore jurisdictions or to individuals from different countries, and there will be no withholding tax of distributing dividends from Malta entity, was also is very, very attractive if we compare European companies in other countries. Also in Malta, what is very attractive, that is tax residency for individuals. About that I can explain a little bit later. Also, there's possibilities to set up private foundations for assets protection tools. Also, there are possibilities to set up trusts according Maltese law. And also is very attractive IP Box Regime, which can be just 1.75% active corporate tax level. And also there is possibilities to have such privacy related with possibility to keep confidentiality of the owners of the company. About that also I will explain a little bit later with next slides. Okay. What is interesting today in Malta, that some many years ago in Malta was very difficult to open bank account. Today the situation again changed. Bank again more and more flexible, and also today we have possibilities to open bank accounts again. Of course, more and more electronic money institutions are opened in Malta, and therefore we have real possibility have Maltese entity with local bank account with Maltese IBAN, but also is very attractive for doing business. There are no restrictions to foreign banks also open bank accounts for Maltese entities, because Malta never was included to black or gray list. Therefore, for nowadays, open bank account in foreign banks, no restrictions. The people in Malta speak English and local Maltese language. English language is official, second official language in Malta, but also is very attractive for it when you prepare or get documents from Maltese registry. And of course, there are many international double tax treaties with other countries. Usually we can set up Maltese entity with online, and that is quite fast. When we have full due diligence, then we can do that in 3-5 working days. What I mean about dividends will be second slide. Then is very attractive also regime. Participation exemption applies in many cases. Therefore, no dividends are mostly not taxed in Malta if Maltese entity own not less than 5% of subsidiary. In many cases, dividends are tax-free. But also it's very important that Maltese entity also have possibility to own subsidiary from offshore jurisdictions or from low taxes jurisdictions. And there will be also in many cases no dividends tax in Malta in case this subsidiary distribute profit from active business. That also is very, very important possibility to the clients who want maybe or to keep in offshore entities profit from active trading and want maybe to legalize on level of legal entity within European Union. Therefore, here is very, very perfect and super possibility to get declared tax-free dividends on level of legal entity. And also, again, just repeat that no withholding tax if Maltese entity distribute dividends to low tax jurisdictions. Therefore, also is very attractive if you can plan, for example, distribute dividends to foreign trusts, to foreign foundations, family foundations, and keep the money on level of passive entity. What is not very often used, but very can be interesting, that is IP Box Regime on level of Maltese law, because IP Box Regime is also very attractive and can be paid just 1.75% corporate tax, because 95% of income from intellectual property can be deducted, and then you can pay 35% from 5% corporate tax. That means that active corporate tax will be just 1.75% on level of Maltese entity. What is important when we are talking about IP box regime, that is approval-based regime in Malta, and you cannot automatically use this IP box 1.75% possibility to paying in case Malta Enterprise official certification received. That means that if you want to use IP box regime with special 95% deduction, you should get special approval from local Maltese institution to use this regime, and this regime cannot be used for all passive brands or royalties income. That should be related with developing of new intellectual property, IP property. That means that that would be related with innovations. Of course, that is not so flexible like in Cyprus, but anyway, this possibility exists. And in case that is related with business related to innovations, then you can go to one of the lowest possibility pay corporate tax within Europe Union. But it's very attractive. In case you cannot get this approval, in many cases you can pay from 5% till 10% corporate tax from this active or passive incomes, but also is very flexible and possible to use. What is related with IP box regime in Malta, that is very good, and that is not low tax jurisdiction from point of view of European Union, because here Malta applies this regime on basis of nexus approach. Of course, there should be research and development costs arrangement. All incomes also should be related with this local development of these all works, should be local employees, should be local works inside Malta. Just in these cases, you can achieve this special IP box regime in Malta. Okay, now a little bit information about Maltese owners, Maltese companies owners. Of course, Malta is a European country. There is absolutely no anonymity. And if we say that there will be anonymity, then that is not true. There are many possibilities to get this information, but here is implemented absolutely lawful privacy rules, and therefore nobody can see who are owners of this Maltese entity. Should be legal ground to get this information. And today, of course, authorities very clearly check who is asking, what is ground of these requests. And also they are also fixed who also is inserted the information for search, who asked, because they also implemented special barcode for all people who want maybe to search information about one or another entity in Malta, but also is very good to owners to know. In case of Maltese foundations or trusts, the information is a little bit different because foundations owners are fixed in absolutely different registry in Malta. Of course, this registry keep this information about founders, about trustees, beneficiaries. But in case of trust in Malta, there are absolutely no registry. This information is kept just with service provider, and this information have just MFSA, that is tax authorities, because that related with special reports. Yeah, therefore, in case of trust, of course, the confidentiality can be higher, but in case of foundations, that also is more difficult to get this information than from the companies because there's separate registry. About foundations in Malta, that is also very interesting possibility for assets protection tools, because in Malta, foundations can be taxed in two ways. The Maltese foundations can be taxed as a company. That means that they can pay usually 35% corporate tax and wait for tax refund. Tax refund can go to beneficiaries or to other related persons if trustee decide that. Or foundations can be taxed as trusts. That means that can be transparent. Therefore, depends from the country where lives beneficiaries. You can choose to have Maltese private foundations, which is full taxpayer like a company, or to set up foundations, family foundations, who pay absolutely no taxes in Malta and is tax transparent. That means that taxes will be paid on level of beneficiaries when distribution or donation is paid to beneficiaries' account. Therefore, Maltese foundation is a little bit different if we compare from other countries, and therefore it's very important to plan from the beginning, because what is very important that, for example, if you choose from the beginning that Maltese foundations is tax transparent, you in the future never can change to Maltese foundation, which is paid as a company, opaco. That means that from the beginning, it's very important to choose correct way how foundation will be taxed. What is interesting that if you from the beginning have chosen foundation is taxed transparent as a trust, then you have possibility one time to change this foundation as is taxed and will be taxed as a company, as a trust. But if you from the beginning choose that foundation is taxed transparent as a trust, then you never can change to taxed as a company. Therefore, they are very important from the beginning, maybe get right consultation. If consultants have experience working with trusts, with foundations, then of course that is similar, absolutely the rules, how the asset is protected. The founder just make donation, that is minimum 1,165 euros. And of course, we can set up these foundations in 2-3 weeks after due diligence is completed with us. And what is very important that trustees or maybe board of trustees in foundations is just licensed companies, cannot be the third persons or third companies. That is very protected by law who can got this license. Also is very expensive insurance policy for this activity. Therefore, the Maltese laws try to protect interests of founders and beneficiaries on level of the law and with maximum protection. but also is very important to the clients. In many cases, also, Malta can be used as a bridge for doing business with other countries, for example, with Asia countries. Malta has quite good reputable jurisdiction from European Union in front of doing business, and together with, for example, from Singapore, who can be trading company with Asia. Here can be very can be very good combinations, because not all European clients want, in many cases, to do business directly with Asia company who has no presence within European Union. Therefore, Malta could be very good solution to split the business. Here cannot be competition between two these jurisdictions, because every jurisdiction has separate advantages for doing business. But for if you want to split the flows, then will be easier maybe to European flows collect with Maltese entity, Asia flows with Singapore entity, and also you can also use this like subsidiary companies, or in many cases there's many advantages not set up separate legal entity in Malta, but can also be registered permanent establishment in Malta, which also has many advantages in front of Maltese entity, because um, permanent establishment is more simple management, more simple liquidation in case your plan was changed. And also permanent establishment has very interesting taxation if you connect Singapore, for example, with Malta, because permanent establishment in many cases can pay no taxes from passive income. From active income, of course, they will be paid 35% corporate tax, and tax refund will go not to Singapore entity, but to owners of Singapore entity. But here is, if somebody will be interested in that, I maybe will send separate information, because that is quite long story about permanent establishment. And if that is interesting, I will explain that more. What is related to individuals, we also feel that more and more individuals are interested in changing of tax residency to Maltese, especially when non-domiciled regime was terminated with United Kingdom. And here in Malta still valid very, very similar tax residency regime for individuals. That means that taxes are remittance-based taxation. If you got income abroad and you didn't transfer this income profit to Malta, then you pay no taxes in Malta at all. For non-European individuals will be minimum 15,000 euros annual tax in Malta. And if tax residency got individual from European Union, then will be just 5,000 euros minimum fee. But it's very attractive if you compare with minimum taxes of other countries, for example, from Italy, from Portugal, from other countries. Therefore, here is very, very interesting tax residency possibility for individual. And if you apply for this residency, then there are no requirements to stay minimum days in Malta, but it's very important to people who are traveling a lot. Therefore, repeat that here is minimum tax for non-European Union 15,000 euros from Europe 5,000 euros. Of course, you need to rent or buy property in Malta to have medical insurance, and then this possibility can attract for you many tax advantages, and also give possibility to get residency card for traveling within Schengen area. No visas will be needed. And also if main applicant got this tax residency with residency card, then also there are possibilities to get some residency card to family members, but also is very important and attractive. So that is what I wanted maybe introduce about doing business with on level of Maltese entity, very short. And if you have additional questions or interest in that, then I always will be happy to assist you with answers later.
Thank you very much, Yaroslavas, for your provided useful and helpful information. In the chat, I can see questions from Petrov. Can you see this? Questions?
Yes. Of course, that first question, that is comparison in case to pay 15% and in case to use for tax refund in Malta, then of course, yes, for small entities in many cases, tax refund can be a little bit too complicated, or maybe if just the company has plan maybe to pay taxes more than 5% on level of the owner, because in many, as I mentioned before, high tax jurisdiction of beneficial owners, 5% is a little bit too less. Then can be CFC legislation can be used. Therefore, you have possibilities, of course, to use 15% final tax without refund. But of course, we have actually, to be honest, no clients who use 15% corporate tax, and all clients use a tax refund system or fiscal unit if you don't want to froze the money for tax refund. Tax refund in the past goes back within, according to the law, 14 days, but in practice that is 7-8 months. In latest tax refund cases, we of course got a little bit faster, 3-4 months, but actually we never got refund within 14 days as is by law. But this tax refund in all cases is real, and we never had the problems that tax refund was not returned to the client. Also, I see the question about IP box regime. As I mentioned before, that this regime usually works just with innovations related with IP box, related with innovation. Then you need to create something new software, new maybe patents, new things which you can confirm. And here you will be confirmed by special licensed auditor, which make audit that your IP box approach all these requirements, and then you can get from special local authorities confirmation that you can use for this IP box special regime. That is ideal for SaaS founders and tech companies, IP-driven startups, groups centralizing IP jurisdictions, and all this should be very important, that also related with Maltese working place, Maltese research and development, you should have evidences that you have expenses inside of the Malta, and therefore that is, as I mentioned, not automatically, but approval-based regime. Therefore, here, of course, every case is very should be specific and different, and you should check with professionals before you decide you can use or not.
Okay. As I see, there are no more questions. Yes. But I have a few questions from corporate part. Yaroslavas, you mentioned that anonymous searches are no longer possible regarding the UBO information. In practical, who can still access beneficial ownership information and under which circumstances? Because, for example, in Ukraine, I can open the Unified Register of Legal Entities, find a certain company, and see the UBO information, for example, name and surname, percentage of ownership, legal address. For example, can I do this in Maltese register? Can I, Alina Childran, open this Maltese register and see information about the UBO of Maltese company or not?
No, here in Malta, you should then send special request to Maltese Business Registry, and you should have legitimate interest only. And mostly this is related to, of course, attorneys in case you have some cases in the court with, of course, could be with journalists if that is related to public interest information. But every legal ground should be checked, and there are no special list of these grounds because Maltese Business Registry just check how is important this information and related with public interests or other maybe legal interests, for example, with court cases or other maybe cases, and therefore answer if you could do that automatically, no, you should present legal ground.
But your company, legal company, can make this request to the authorized body to see this information or also not?
About third companies, if we are not service providers in Malta and we have no legal basis, then actually no.
Okay, thanks. And about private foundation, in which situations would you typically recommend a foundation structure, and what problems can it solve?
Private foundation actually is very similar product to trust. Therefore, that is
But it's
mostly
different instrument.
related to assets protections tools, and also if you what maybe plan inheritance questions, especially if you don't want maybe to use local laws about inheritance, and therefore foundations or trusts can be very good solution for this case. But what is most important about private foundation, that private foundation Maltese is separate legal entity and is recognized by civil law countries. What is important, for example, many countries are not signed Hague Trust Convents, and therefore they don't recognize trusts as separate personality. But in these cases, foundation is separate legal entity, and of course, for such countries, better to use Maltese foundation in these cases because then it will be automatically recognized. Because in case it's not recognized, you have risks that settler can be taxed in this country if trust was not recognized. But in case of private foundation, there are no risks because there's a separate legal entity. Therefore, for assets protection, for inheritances, for, I don't know, maybe for collecting also holding flows, also private foundation is very nice solution. Of course, foundation cannot do active business just for passive income, but is quite good solution. And of course, as I said, that trustees can be just local licensed companies which checked every 1 or 2 years. Also very expensive insurance also is applied for this activity. Therefore, the clients and these interests are protected in the high level.
Mhm. From which amount do you recommend to set up a private foundation?
That depends on the risks, but I think that maybe from 1 million.
Euros, yes. And I see from the presentation that setting up a company in Malta can take up to 3 5 working days. If we talk about private foundation, up to 3 weeks, not months, 3 weeks. And what about bank accounts? Is it difficult to open a bank account if shareholders are non-citizen of Malta, non-resident of Malta?
Before was very difficult to open in Malta, maybe not difficult, but not possible. But now situation again changed, and again
Mhm.
banks came back to the marketplace. Of course, before they asked some substance, for example, minimum 2 local employees, office space rent. But now I see that more and more banks agree to open bank accounts for passive entities without special substance in Malta. Of course, then maybe there will be question what will be minimum uh, rest of deposits on the banks, what products will be bought from the banks, but more and more banks try to come back to this place. And what is more interesting that I see that more and more electronic money institutions get licensed in Malta. Therefore, you also can get Maltese bank account with Maltese ID, and of course, open bank account with Maltese EMI is more easier than with banks, but with banks also are possible again.
Mhm. Maybe you can maybe you can combine the EMI and bank account to understand what differences and privilege maybe some of this institution, because not all of our clients know what is this EMI and difference
Maybe the
from classical bank.
difference is that, for example, in banks, automatically for bank accounts is applied local insurance till 100,000 euros for rest of your money. But of course, electronic money institution don't have such insurance. But it's very important that very often clients make mistake, then decide that don't want to open accounts with EMI, that I can because EMI don't have insurance. But EMI funds are absolutely different from client's account. Therefore, in case EMI goes under bankruptcy, then the client's money are absolutely in different account, are not related to bankruptcy of EMI. And of course, if the money are with normal bank, then the money are protected. No, of course, there will be the bigger problem if this bank will go under bankruptcy where EMI has a client's account. But here is the main difference. But actually, when you make payment, then you have absolutely the same interface. You have the same bank account number, IBAN number. You can bank statements. You can connect this EMI with accounting programs. Therefore, that it will be from point of view to doing business, the client cannot feel big difference. Of course, just maybe about insurance, of course, and EMIs not always have additional bank products like financing and other things, but he is absolutely not related for daily business.
How long does it take to open a bank account in general? EMI and bank account to combine
You mean in Malta?
in Malta, yeah. Or
A
EMI, it's
little bit
in
long.
not in Malta, in another
In
countries.
other country, that depends. In EMI, we can open usually in 2 3 weeks, sometimes
Mhm.
faster. with banks depends on the country, but in some cases 2 weeks, in some cases 2-3 months.
Months, okay. And do we need presence of a director or shareholder, or everything can be done online?
No, everything can be done online. Yeah.
Great. Great. From my side, that's all.
I have two questions. Addition. So about bank's account. Is it true that Maltese banks investigate their clients very closely when they open an account for Maltese company? Because we had heard that Ukrainian banks even requires from Maltese company, they want to pay, for example, dividends from Ukraine to Maltese account because there is a good compliance. Is it true? So our Ukrainian bank, they believe that if the company has account in Maltese bank, it's very good because bank is very closely investigate the situation with this company.
Yes, that cannot be maybe 100% true because because responsibility in any case is with Ukrainian bank who make transfer, and he never can transfer responsibility to other bank. And of course, maybe all know that they are not so easy to open bank account with local money institution or local bank. Therefore, maybe they believe that if they did that, here will be 100% that maybe everything is okay. But actually, responsibility you never can transfer. And today, the business is so international that maybe to have local bank account or bank account abroad, that absolutely not increase or decrease substance of the company. Because I also know many clients who has accounts in 2-3 different countries, because maybe for one business region is easier to do transfers from one country, to get maybe transfers from third countries easier to another bank account country. Therefore, today is so big globalization for doing business, and therefore I cannot say that here will be easier to make transfer to one country or another country, because very reputable jurisdiction or very, very strong compliance.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. It's about your understanding, maybe a feeling, maybe you notice this kind of change. Do European countries continue to treat Malta as an offshore inside European Union? Because when our client from Europe think about CFC in Malta, we often hear such comments that maybe that their local authority will look at such Maltese company with suspicion.
No, here of course there are de jure and de facto. De jure, of course, nobody can treat the Malta as low tax jurisdiction or offshore jurisdiction, and there are no local restrictions to do business with Malta. But maybe from point of view de facto, they maybe can say that why you use Malta if you are living, for example, in Italy or in Spain. Please use local company and please don't use company from abroad. But here again is decision of the client how he follow the request of these authorities. So not request, but recommendations. But yes, of course, many tax authorities can say that we are not satisfied that you transferred the business, but every client has right to decide, especially if the business is managed not from this country where he originally maybe is resident. Therefore, de jure you cannot say that low taxes, but de facto, yes, of course, that depends on the jurisdiction, because in some European jurisdictions, tax authorities are more aggressive if you compare with other. That is true, yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. So thank you very much, Yaroslavas, for sharing your expertise and practical insights. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Petro, for joining us today and for your questions. We hope you found this session valuable and informative. Should you have any questions or wish to discuss your business plan in more detail, please feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for your time
Yes,
and have a wonderful
have a
and
nice
peaceful
day.
day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.